Jacoba Montez Talley Sr. I was diagnosed in October 2021 with stage 5 retinal failure. When I first found out and when I first had the diagnosis, I was terrified because I've known this disease to be known as a death sentence. So that's immediately what entered my mind. So I was terrified when I first found out. And I just couldn't believe, I just took me a while to wrap my mind around it, that this was happening to me and why me and so on. Here's the thing, when I did get the diagnosis, my first reaction was, no, let's run it again, make sure. I want to be sure. And I asked them, did I need to get a second opinion? And they explained to me, well, you're welcome to get a second opinion, but it is what it is. And we've been following this over the years, and we've been saying that, one day this may come upon us. And it did. So it took me a minute to accept it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh. Well, it scared everybody for the most, and my kids weren't accepting of it at all. Because for what they know about the disease, it's the same thing. So that's immediately what set them off was they thought that, oh, Dad's gonna die, Dad's leaving here, and this and that. But I know myself that all sickness ain't death. And my wife, she was very supportive of it. And she said, it too shall pass, and we were going to work through it together. And she said, I'm here for you, and we'll get through it, and we'll get past it. She seemed to accept it pretty well and gave me the strength that I needed to make it through it. Because I thought it would break her as much, but she was actually stronger than I was about it. And that helped out a lot.
My name is Shakina Smith Talley. I am Jacoba Talley's wife. When I first heard the news of his diagnosis, my initial reaction was fear, thinking, the worst, this is the end, how are we going to make it through it? So definitely fear. I would say denial at first, but quickly that turned into acceptance, especially once the dialysis sessions were scheduled and he had to attend. It was my reality at that point, and I knew that our life in general would change.
Well, at the time I was feeling so bad, and my doctor said, we have to get you on dialysis immediately because this is the reason why you're feeling like you're feeling. Because I was running no energy, no appetite, just feeling bad. And he said, we got to get you in as soon as possible. And I was like, what as soon as possible? And he was like, if I could send you today, you would go today. So the next day, I'm getting catheter put in to start the process. And I was like, wow. And real fast. Everything happened so fast.
I would say the next steps for me was to learn everything that I could learn about kidney disease and, the diet, what he could and could not do. As it relates to him, it was more of understanding that now I was going to have to be this caregiver or this support partner to kind of help him navigate this. So we were prepared to learn things together. The most difficult step is that he wouldn't be able to work anymore. So from a financial perspective, how are we going to sustain our household? That was probably the very first thing that I thought about. And, again, looking at our savings and what our current financial climate was to know what were we going to do, with him having to get this treatment 3 times a week. So definitely looking at that, again, speaking with our family about how we plan to move forward, thinking about worst case scenarios, just kind of laying everything out on the table to kind of give us a plan A and B.
I wasn't aware of any help. I wasn't aware of any help. And just so happened, my wife used to work with this guy named Craig, and I think she ran into him one day. And they hadn't seen each other. They worked together, so they hadn't seen each other in a while. And they was talking about some things, and I guess it came up that, my husband was on dialysis too, and he started the get in position organization. And she knew what I was struggling with mentally, physically, and financially. So she said, you might want to reach out to him because he's been there and done that. I was like, wow. And I got in touch with Craig, and Lord knows I want to say he's a great guy. He done a lot for me mentally, physically, and financially because I was so lost in this process that I didn't have nobody to turn to, nobody to talk to, because everybody else that had the disease, they passed on. They threw in the towel. So it was just me. I felt like I was all alone. And I talked to him, and it's been real good since then.
So I was scrolling through LinkedIn, as I normally do, and Craig Merritt, I believe there was a video or something. And so Craig and I worked together years before. I stopped to look at the video, and he was talking about kidney disease and how he had, recently got a transplant. And I'm like, oh my God, because you're praying and hoping that God will send us something. And he sent that. So I instantly inboxed Craig. Hey, Craig, we were catching up a bit. And I'm like, look, my husband has been diagnosed with, kidney failure. And I couldn't relate to him. So being the best support ever, I could not relate. And I'm like, here, God has sent me a guy. He's been through it. Let me see if I can connect the two. And that was a game changer for us.
Yes, it's been a great assistance to me, the Get in Position Foundation. Yes. And having a brother like Craig where you can call on at any time. I mean, when I say this is anytime, morning, noon, or night, he answers the phone, he picks right up. If not, he get right back to you. And that's enough in itself because nobody really knows what you go through in this. But he understands every aspect of it. Even the question from the treatments or whatever, he's very supportive. And he don't sugarcoat things like sometimes I would like to hear from him, but he gives it to me straight and forward because this is, like I said, this is very serious. And he holds me accountable for my actions. So yes, I've done better with my eating. I lost a lot of weight and I feel a whole lot better. Now that not saying that you need somebody over you, but to have somebody that's going to hold you accountable for your actions and that's walking the walk with you.
Absolutely, being a part of the Get In Position Foundation and the mentorship program has been a godsend and life that, caused my husband life to change for the better since we met Craig. For one, his mental state, I would say, instantly improved. I know he was calling Craig all the time. There were some things that, yes, he wanted to share with me, but he didn't want me to worry. But he could talk to Craig. Conferences that we've attended that Craig introduced us to helped us learn more about things. The Georgia transplant resource, just a plethora of things. So I would definitely say that my husband's overall health, including mental, physical, all that good stuff, did change once he was introduced to the Get in Position Foundation.
I would love to see people support them because they are so supportive to others in this position. And you never know who may need them, but they're there. And I would love to see this foundation go forward and do other great things for people because it's much needed with this disease. If you plan on winning this fight, you're going to need a foundation like Get in Position. if not get in position itself. And I know with everything is funding. You got to have funding for everything you do. You know, we had to pay to keep the lights, so we had to pay for this, but it's going toward a good cause.
If the Get In Position Foundation is not funded, it would definitely have a negative impact, not only on the mentees, but on the community. Again, I witnessed firsthand the mental challenges that my husband experienced after being diagnosed, and he would not have made it through that if it were not for Get In Position. Again, I can only relate so far because not having experienced it myself, but once that connection was made and then he became part of a community of people who were experiencing the same thing, it totally changed his outlook. It changed his life. It really helped him move forward, I would say, in a positive manner. I do not believe that people who donate understand by any stretch of the imagination the impact that this disease is currently having on families. And I say that because I had no idea of all of the financial aspects that were involved. And of course, still learning that process. So for those who are looking to donate or want to donate, I encourage those people, just learn more about it. You know, again, once you're educated, you can make better decisions, but you have no clue what it feels like to have a income and suddenly lose that. And now you're faced with, you know, how is the household going to be taken care of? How are you going to get meds? How are you going to eat? So funding is going to be vital so that Get In Position can continue to do the work that they need to do to educate the communities and hopefully, you know, slow the progression, but at least provide some sort of support system for those going through this. In summary, I would say that Get In Position Foundation has truly been a valuable resource for us. I would definitely support them and encourage others to support them. We all know that finances are key with being able to get the patients the resources that they need. So it's not even a question about if someone should donate. Just hope and pray that this never comes knocking on your door, I would say. But I just cannot imagine life without Get In Position. It's very much so needed in the community because we need to be more proactive versus being reactive. And for those who may, you know, already know that they are experiencing some sort of issues with their kidneys, I would definitely encourage them to get checked and get checked often. Stay up on it. Like, don't, because your numbers can change in a blinking of an eye. And simply just, you know, get in position as it relates to your health.
I would say get in position as it relates to your health. Because your health is your wealth. And nothing is more important in life. You can't do anything else in life without your health. Your health is your wealth. That's a true saying. So if you would, please get in position as it relates to your health.